After 7 months of searching, an Ingleside teen has been found. Jazlynn Saldivar was found by law enforcement agents in Weslaco, that's down in the valley. Madeline Dart joins us now with an update from Ingleside Police. It's our lead story tonight. Maddie?
Chief Tammy Burr with Ingleside PD says it was such a teary reunion yesterday as the family was brought back together, and all of the law enforcement agencies that were involved saying they're just glad that she's safe and sound. During a press conference, Chief Burr reveals what led up to Jazlynn's discovery. On Sunday night, law enforcement officers were able to identify where she was living with her 18-year-old boyfriend, Jose Salceda. Chief Burr says as soon as Salceda left for work, officers were able to convince Jazlynn out of the apartment. Preliminary investigation found that Jazlynn was not a victim of human trafficking.
We were just ecstatic last night when I got the call. There were several people crying. It's been a long journey.
Chief Burr says Jazlynn was released to a trusted guardian after she returned from Weslaco. Chief Burr says this is still an ongoing investigation, but charges will be brought against Salceda. Reporting from Ingleside, Madeline Dart, 3 News.
And we will have more on the story coming up on 3 News at 6 o'clock.